Hello, we're back on Gelvin Valley with another video. And my tractor is slipping, it appears, but I started to kind of buy this little sheep. And some of you may wonder what a sheep is doing in the middle of the road. We're not up in the sheep pen. It's this mod I have called Trusty Sheep. I found it, I guess this, just like Mary had a little lamb, this sheep will follow you wherever you go. Most of the time, I'm not sure exactly how it works. I've been able to avoid it much of the time, but for some reason it just showed up here. Maybe whenever you're on the ground versus in a piece of machinery, maybe that's kind of what it does. Yeah, it's a fun little mod. I think a modder named Marhu made it back in the day. So it just kind of follows you around. I better fix my tractor. Finding a tree. And when it's finding a tree, of course, the combine doesn't work properly. Ooh, chibi full. So instead of climbing uphill, I should send him on his way, probably. Probably won't find the door right here. Yeah, it's gonna have a little bit of trouble. It's gonna find the edge over there. I gotta work on that horse maybe a little bit. We'll see if we can find it from here. What on earth? Wow, wow, wow. Please let there not be any ditch. I wonder if course plays like is to simulate challenging employees. Now, what are you going over there? Oh my goodness. Wow. I'd like to believe I wasn't this much trouble to my uncles back in the day. But it obviously has something in mind, and where it wants to go this way. So yeah, there's like certain it found the marker, which must have been the end marker here. So it's like if it isn't able to find that, like let me see if it'll do that. Wow. This is just an obstinate. Do you see it now? There we go. Yeah, kind of a square corner. I didn't do a very good job setting up the course. Come back out to here. Continue windrowing this, trying to crawl up the hill. I remember the last time I came through here. It doesn't really like this hill, but it's what we gotta do. Last crop I think I had canola in here, so I didn't have to come in with the baler. This time we'll bale it. So I think in the last video I was talking about field burning and some of my experiences growing up working on lone oak farms. There's a whole lot more that could be said about working on the farm and the family environment. Just a time I treasured. And if I could redo it or do it again, I would really enjoy doing it. It just was a special time in my life. But it wasn't the only place I worked, and I don't even remember anymore the exact reasons. I grew up in the country also, and near our home, but not quite as far away as Lone Oak was. And Lone Oak wasn't far. But there was another grass seed farmer, and he needed some help one summer, so I went and worked for him, doing much the same thing, that I had done at Lone Oak, mainly combining. Did a lot of mowing in the fields following harvest. That was kind of his thing, was to mow, to mulch it, kind of back into the soil. I think that was his solution to not being able to burn. I think he grew a lot of orchard grass, which is a very tall grass. Um, Actually, to my uncles on Lone Oak, it was considered a weed. It was something they did not want to have in their grass. It was considered a highly noxious weed for the fine fescues, if you will. But that was his crop. So that's kind of how I helped him that summer. And he was just a different guy. I was a little bit different working for non-family, if you will. He treated me right. I enjoyed working for him too. His machinery was a little bit different. He had a couple Massey Ferguson combines. They were still both conventional threshers, just like the Deeres were on my uncle's farm. But it was a little bit different, learning a different machine, different way of doing things on the farm. I think it was kind of healthy for me to see something other than just family. Boop. Now I know why I turn that off every time. If I raise them, it doesn't quite get the job done. Boop. Back up. I use the power of GPS to make straight windrows if I can. And at the time I worked for this other man, he was in the process of building a brand new grass seed cleaner. So everything he had in there was state of the art, at least compared to what I was used to. When I worked in the grass seed cleaner for my uncles, it was a ton of manual work, and we made efficiencies over the years and adding and modifying the setup that we had. But this farmer here, you didn't handle any of the seed except for the clean seed. Um, just like every other place, he had to put it in bags, just like we did on Lone Oak too. But the advantage he had was every bit of his seed was moved by air. So there was no augers or bucket elevators, that had parts that would wear out. He moved it all by air in these tubes, including coming off of the truck. When it came in from the field and was put in a storage bin, he had these, it would just move all the seed by air. And I know on Lone Oak, the way we move seed, it wasn't by air at all. I mean, it was by conveyor of some kind, usually a screw conveyor or an auger. And I got the job done. It's another way to do it. It's very common. It was just interesting seeing this fella setup, having it be all moved by air. And I don't know if that's ultimately better or not. I do think that for someone that had allergies like I did, that it maybe kept the working environment a little more dust-free. Although at Lone Oak and their cleaner, they did have special equipment to handle excessive dust. Which just, you didn't have any choice. It just built up over time, whether you liked it or not. And so there was machines that they had there to collect it and deal with it. And I don't remember if this other farmer had all that in there because maybe he didn't need it. Maybe they just handling everything by air just ended up sucking all the dust out, along with it. But it was a similar dynamic working for him as it was with my family, something on my family. I had two uncles who were basically my bosses. When I worked up there, a couple cousins and I worked together, mainly for the uncles. They're the ones that gave the day-to-day orders. But in back of them, the big cheese, if you will, was Grandpa, and he would give orders too. And sometimes the orders he gave weren't exactly the ones that my uncles would have preferred, if I can just put it that way. As Grandpa's interests, as he got older, I would say they changed. They just modified a bit from, rather than being 100% focused on the farm, he was focused on other things, maybe his garden tractor or whatever. But he still came out to the fields and he helped with, a lot of the harvest work too. But on this neighbor farm that I was at, it was a similar dynamic, although there was just one man, one son, and he had his dad out there helping, with the harvest and what have you. And it was just comical to me. I mean, I was just hired help, and I didn't laugh in front of him, but my laughter was only just from seeing the same dynamic happen in my family, between my uncles and grandfather, just the father-son things that you do when everybody's under stress and trying to get through, harvest season or whatever, some of the arguments that you have, the things that just happen, and when there's nobody to blame them on but yourself, no hired help. um, yeah, it just makes for some interesting things. I remember one thing in particular, when I worked for this neighbor, I drove one of the combines, and the neighbor or the dad drove the other, and then the semi trucks kind of were driven by my boss, the guy that I worked for. Well, like I say, he was an elderly man, the father was, and uh, being elderly, that comes with a lot of experience, so he definitely knew how to combine, but I think some of his reflexes maybe weren't quite as sharp as they used to be. And I remember his combine had this funny, oh, I don't even know how to describe it. Um, it's kind of like if you crash your car into something and the tin work gets messed up, only you don't know what you crashed into. So the back of his combine was kind of munched in a little bit, and so my boss sees this and he's interrogating his dad, basically trying to figure out, in very colorful language, what in the world happened, that it happened, that caused this. And here's a son questioning his father. This is probably something the father did many times when the son was growing up, and he was the one making all the mistakes. And it was just funny to watch the reactions, of the dad who genuinely didn't know how it happened, but yet he's the one that had done it. And it was just kind of funny seeing that, because there were similar type conversations between my uncles and my grandfather. Yeah, I guess they call those older years, as you age, they call them the golden years, but I'm not so sure. That's when all the parts start to break, and things aren't quite what they used to be. So I was with him for just one summer, and I may have even filled in some up at Lone Oak, depending on the timing. I don't remember exactly. I think it fit my travel plans that I had that fall. I Our church has a children's home in a distant state, and I went and spent some time there, and I think it worked well for my schedule working for this other farmer to be able to do that. And that was, I believe, close to the end of, maybe it was just before the last year of college that I had. I got out of university that was in 1996, and Yeah, in the summer of 1996, there was a lot of things that happened all at once. Graduating college, immediately on the heels of that, my wife and I got married, and basically on the heels of that, moved away from home, to establish, set up our own new home, or an apartment rather. I bought a vehicle for the first time and started my first real career job, up in the big city for one of the international accounting firms to get some training. My father, growing up, was a CPA all of his life. That's been his career, his whole life, and so I was kind of following in his footsteps. But he encouraged me to get a position if I could at one of those large firms just to gain perspective. They're a really good training ground for seeing all kinds of businesses, industries, issues, and working with clients of all sizes. And basically, if you do that, it's just really helpful in your career because nothing will, well, I say nothing. It's less likely to intimidate you, the kinds of things you would run into later because you've had that experience. And once again, well, the trusty sheep is out there guarding the place, I guess. But the tractor doesn't like the fence. Oh, and it's full of wheat again. Oh boy. It's probably looking for a straight path to come down here, so I'm gonna just try to, maybe I can line it up properly with the door this time, please. Find the gate. Good boy, good boy. Oh, it's ticklish knowing what it's particularly looking for. Combine's still behaving though. So I got to start at international accounting firm, and I say international only because they had offices all over the world. The one I didn't really deal with any international issues. I mean, yeah, I took a trip to Canada, but I've been told that doesn't count. um, but got my start there. Spent 4 years as an accountant. I earned my CPA there. It was a good company to work for. Got some good training, met some wonderful people. And then somewhere in there, I think it was summer of 2000 maybe, my dad let me know there was an opening at his firm. And so I left the city, and to that I say good riddance. I never really did like being in the city per se. I was always more comfortable in the country, just with the traffic and, I don't know, lots of not nice people in town to deal with, and I work in town every day now. It isn't that. It's much closer to home, and every now and again I'll turn on the traffic reports just to hear what it's like, and it's still the same zoo as it was, when I was up there, and even worse. There's just more people there now, and the roads are all still the same, so they're just jamming more of the population onto the roads and making it tougher. Then I've been working with Dad ever since. I'm part owner of the firm now, and there's another gentleman, a cousin, to both my dad and I, who's part of it also, and it's worked out pretty well. I I enjoy working with my dad. It's uh, it's not something every kid gets to do, and We see a lot of small businesses in the work that we do. It doesn't always work, to have a family business, and we see it runs a gambit, and some family businesses work fabulously, and some you wonder how they can go through the day without shooting each other. It seems they hate each other so bad, and yet, they're working together. And you wonder what deep rooted, in some ways we're CPAs, we're more psychologists and trying to understand people and help them communicate with one another with their family situations and whatnot. That's all part of the challenge. But I appreciate my father and my cousin. They're very talented men in both technical expertise and just honest and integrity, and it's uh, it's wonderful working in an environment like that. Maybe as a kid I always said, well, I wish I could farm. Well, that just wasn't really in the cards. My father was the oldest child in the family he grew up in, and so by the time he would have been ready to say farm, my grandpa was nowhere near ready to retire, and he had a growing family still at home, so grandpa encouraged his kids to go to college and get some other skill so they would have a livelihood. And so the farm basically ended up going to the younger generation, and which includes my uncles, the ones that I worked for. They're pretty cool guys too. I had a lot of many wonderful years working with them, and they weren't perfect either, but they gave me an opportunity to work in an environment, work with my hands, to work hard, to learn how to work, and earn some money to pay for university. My dad's philosophy, he made enough. He probably could have sent all of us kids to college. A lot of parents do. They pay the bill to help fund the education of their kids, and that's a noble thing to do. My dad's philosophy was a little bit different. Um, he and my mom, they chose to help us in a different way. They covered our cost of clothing, if you will, that kind of thing. Dad provided a vehicle, but one thing he insisted on was that I earn the money to pay for university, for college. And I think the reason is he wanted me to appreciate it. Whether the education that we would get, and I hope I have. What I do know is I worked awful hard, to get whatever money I had to go to school, and basically went down there and said, I've got one shot at this, and if I screw up, you don't, you can get a second chance. I mean, it isn't that you can't, but it's just much harder the second time around, if you don't have money or whatever, or you've wasted it all. So I guess I appreciate that, although it would have been nice to have financial help for it. But he really did help. It was just in different ways, with the vehicle, and I think he paid for my fuel and that kind of thing. And so I know there's a lot of kids that maybe their parents pay for their college, but a lot of times they buy their own clothes and their own car and that kind of thing. So it's all good how we learn our lessons, and I ran into kids, and I'm sure others listening to this have before too, where they're just different life choices, and well, to be honest, they're lazy. And ran into some of them there with their dad or mom paying the bill, and some of them it's like you wonder where the parents were. They would One kid I remember his parents sent him money to school, and the parents had no idea that the kid wasn't even enrolled in the university, but he would get the money and then just go on skiing trips or whatever and just goof off. And I remember hearing at some point, well, maybe this is another kid. Another kid, dad was paying for it all, but he probably shouldn't have been in college. I don't think it was his temperament, and he was basically failing, and of course he was screwing around all the time too, and so eventually his dad took him out of the university and brought him into the family business. I never have heard, how well he did there, but I'm not sure my dad would have done that if I had just screwed up or muddled up university because I was messing around. But yep, lots of different people, lots of different choices that get made out there, and somehow we all gotta muddle through this life as best we can. Wonder how my combine is doing. Looks like it's moving. Yeah, 2.4 miles an hour. Come on, tractor. You can pull this hill. Can't you? Drive through this weed patch. So it's been kind of interesting to reflect on a lot of this. Probably just boring someone to tears, whoever's listening. I know everybody has their own story, their own life history or whatever, and yeah, you may not have cared to hear mine, but lots of interesting things everybody goes through trying to figure out life. I'm just thankful for whatever opportunities I've had, and there's been a lot of things I've been able to be part of that I know my kids haven't been able to, but that's life. I mean, there's always other opportunities. You even see that dynamic in a family where sometimes the older are able to do things the younger couldn't. The situation changed, and vice versa. That's just life. I know a lot of times at school anymore, young people are told, well, you can be anything you want to be. And to a certain level, that's true. But sometimes I wonder if our kids, our young people, are sold a bill of goods a little bit. I remember back when I was in high school, there was a huge push to send kids to college. And some some kids just aren't suited for college, and it isn't that they're dumb. They're not. It's just their gifts are in a different area than academics. And I remember in high school there was a lot of programs. The high school I went to, I went through its woodshop program, enjoyed it, and for some kids, that's what they excel at, is working with their hands. And you send them to college or try to force them into that, it's like putting a square peg in a round hole. You can't do it. But the schools, I don't know whether it was shortfalls of funding or whatever, who knows what they do with all the money they get sent in from taxes, but they would close a lot of times the programs that were the only ones that were meaningful to some of these kids, which is tragic. So I remember, they had the wood shop. They still have had that over the years, but they closed the metal shop. They closed the mechanic shop. There used to be drafting available, making those drafting drawings, a little bit of engineering. They closed that. They had something for electronics. I think eventually that got closed, and it was just more academics. And yeah, it's great. Math, higher levels of math and chemistry and science and all that, but it didn't really help or do a service for some of my peers. That just wasn't their thing. This tractor is stuck. There, we got all this windroad here, so ready to drag a baler up. This is even one of our larger fields, and it still didn't take that long. It's maybe another area where, I don't know, in my playing style or whatever in this game, I don't mind the larger fields at all. Matter of fact, I prefer them to the small fields. It just feels more realistic, and I know maybe it's a little bit different across the pond in the UK. Maybe field sizes are generally smaller than they are here in the States. I'm sure there's statistics on that. We got a lot of small fields over here too. But in game, I don't mind. Like I say, it's pretty hard for me to get bored at this, so I just enjoy it. Oop, I should be having my hazards on and a beacon. Oh, maybe this doesn't have a beacon. Get it all over here and ready to go in this other field. Maybe I'll take it down here. I'll park it on the neighbor's property temporarily, so I think there's another gate. Oh, look out, sheep. I don't know why it's staying there. Maybe I should... Good job, tractor. Look at that. There's hope for horseplay yet. It figured out where the door was all by itself. I'm going to come in here and turn around. It belongs to someone else. But I don't think they'll mind if I scoot in here real quick. Just to park it somewhere for the moment. I'm kind of curious. If I come out here... I heard the bat. Aha! Yeah, that must be how this works. Look at him come running. So... yeah, I think that's how the sheep is set up, this trusty sheep. If you're on foot or on the hoof, just like he is, he'll come find you. But if you're just tabbing in and out of vehicles, I think he must stay put, kind of where he is. I wonder if you'll let me get close to him. Yeah. He don't look like much of a sheep, but what I'll do, let me take a picture of him. There. I better quit playing on the highway or we're both going to get run over. This guy is hauling it down to storage, kind of coming by our main farm, if you will. But the grain isn't stored here. I think the arable portion of the farm is actually the next farm over. This is for beef cattle. So the arable is moreover just under field number 9. But kind of like driving through here. It's one area, I don't think the traffic goes, so that's kind of handy. At least you're not fighting that. I like his moving water texture. I've modified another map. I borrowed it off of here. Not sure where he got it. Maybe it's on the standard map. Shoot, I can't remember. Just nice, those extra details that get plugged in to help you suspend reality for a little bit. Whew, this is a long ways over here to come to the grain storage. I don't know if this is common for, I think he says the map is based on Ireland, the UK, maybe Northern Ireland, the UK, and Scotland. Some of which his family did. So I don't know if a grain storage like this, it must be similar to what he's used to, where all the grain handling happens underground, or maybe it's stored in these silos in here. I really don't even know how much it stores. Then you've got to drive through. You go under that one shed there when you want to get the grain back out. So now he has a little drive ahead of him to return to the field, and although the combine's only 48% full, so yeah, it's not that bad. I guess he'll make it work. It's now past midnight, but earlier today meaning yesterday, I heard from my friend Atomic, and I think he may try to make another video, and so I'm kind of looking forward to see what he comes up with. Like I say, I hope it's made him excited, just helping me kind of do some of this to rekindle his interest in it. And he's such a good storyteller. I mean, there's people that have left comments on his videos that are something like, where he could read the phone book and it would still be interesting to people just the way he does it. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what he comes up with, and looking forward to seeing whatever creativity he wishes to share, and move on with that. And I'm looking at the clock here, and I know I'm probably past half an hour again. I don't know how I managed to talk this whole time. So maybe as soon as we get back out to the field, I'll terminate the video for this time. And oh, here we're going by. This is one of my new fields, right up the hill here. Field number 38 is the first crop. Yep, looks about the same as the crop in the other fields. I put wheat in them all just to make it simple. The map does have the soil mod built in. I've never played with the soil mod, so it's a little intimidating to me to learn how to use it, but maybe I will at some point. I've just never done it before. But I figured out seasons in Farm Sim 17 and 19, and it wasn't too bad, so maybe with a little research and stick-to-itiveness, I can figure out the soil mod too. I just figured for the first few crops or whatever, while I'm trying to get my feet under me, then maybe it'd be a little bit easier just to play it the normal way before involving the soil mod. So Probably at some point I just need to look for a couple good videos on YouTube that explain kind of how it was used. And you know, it's a mod that wasn't brought into FS17, but I think the game has grown, so they've added more to it that kind of does some of the things that the soil mod did. My goodness, I'm going to finish this field tonight too, probably, maybe before I finish for the night. I'm kind of wondering in some ways. 32, I guess the next, well, I think the next field I'll go to will be field number 26. I know 38's a little bit closer, but I think I'll take care of those. 26, 25, then maybe over to 19 just to take all the little ones and get them done. And then come back over catch 22, catch 22, and then head back down closer to the home place, take care of 38, 37, and 8. Still a lot to do in wheat harvest, and that's probably something everybody's getting sick of by now. Well, I'm inside the combine. I know some guys they'll speed up the time, they will do it outside of the video. That's maybe what I should do. Spare people come back and they can watch some boring baling. Oh, and the time increased somehow. I don't know how that happened. I always play on the speed of 1. I must have accidentally hit a key that sped it up. Otherwise, I think I'm going to leave it there for now. Thank you for watching. If you made it through here, appreciate you doing that, and hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.